Welcome, everybody, to the Masad Method podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the whole preparation cycle to getting your business, out of sort of the dream stage and into reality. In fact, there are really 4 chapters in my book that I cover, and it's all part of the preparation cycle for starting your business. So the first one is really recognizing the signs. Is it even time to start your own business? And that's an important consideration. The second chapter is, of course, finding your true inspiration. The third, taking personal inventory, and then finally, preparing your business plan. So today we're going to spend time on recognizing the signs, and is it time to start your own business? There are a number of sort of ways I like to think about, or maybe not ways, but situations that lend themselves really, really well about starting your own business or getting a business off the ground. And one is limited career advancement or job loss. So we've been kind of in an interesting economy. Generally, it's been pretty good up until the pandemic, and of course, I'm talking now in March of 2022. So we're hopefully at the end of the pandemic, and a lot of people lost their jobs during the last 2 years. In fact, many people who had businesses lost their jobs or their businesses because of closures. The other thing too is there are people who lost their jobs due to economic issues or even health issues. Some people who chose not to get vaccinated and actually lost their jobs because of it. So for a lot of these people, they may have, thought about starting a business, a long time ago. But because they lost their jobs, it might actually accelerate the whole process. And that often happens, right? You either get to a point in your career where you feel like you can't go any farther. And that's kind of how I started this company. I was in a situation where I had achieved a great deal and really felt that the reward didn't fit the risk and the level of effort. And that was one of the big reasons why I ended up starting my own company. But for a lot of other people, they may lose their jobs, and that might also be an impetus for them. So, they say that necessity is the mother of invention, and that's really, really true. When you get into a situation where you feel like there's nothing really going on in your life, or nothing that you're excited or jazzed about, even you could be doing really well in your career, you could be making a lot of money, but you don't feel excited to do your job, or you feel like it is a job rather than a passion. And I firmly believe that if you're going to spend most of your life doing something, you might as well do something you love and that doesn't feel like work. And I have to say, after having this business now for over 27 years, I don't ever really feel like it's a job. I feel like it's a part of myself. And when I wake up in the morning, I have different challenges and things to look forward to. And every day is different. So yeah, so those are some of the base reasons. Another area is the whole area of career success combined with poor physical and mental energy. And again, you'll find this with people who, they've done very well for themselves in a career, and many of them are senior executives, but they may have mental health issues. They may have health issues that have sprung up. And some of these health issues are often rooted in stress. Not to say that owning your own business doesn't have stress, because it does. It does have a lot of stress. But I think stress is perceived differently when you feel you have some level of control over it and you can manage it. Whereas sometimes when you're in a large corporate environment, you feel like, oh my gosh, this thing is being foisted on me, or I can only control so much. I can't control most of what's affecting me. And that can have a profound effect on your mental and your physical health. So I've often found entrepreneurs, starting a business from that point of view. And I have to say that was my own experience. Both the elements of I had achieved maybe as much as I could achieve, um, without really feeling like the rewards were there. And also I felt like my physical health was being compromised because, I was working crazy hours, and I was in a situation where I worked for a big technology firm, and I did some amazing things. I generated a $20 million systems integration contract within the first 6 months that I was with the company. And I had a host of other business, it ended up totaling over, I think, $4.5 million on top of that. And what I accomplished was really, in our industry, pretty miraculous. Actually, it's very rare that people do that kind of thing. And it's not something you do every year. It is kind of it's a big achievement, and it's not a common achievement. So at any rate, I had joined this firm, and I'd had a pretty senior position in a previous firm, and I joined basically as at a particular level. And when I was being recruited, I said, if I achieve this, and this, can we consider, a VP role for me? And they said, yeah, absolutely. So when I achieved all these great things, and I went to them and I said, okay, well, look at all the things I've achieved and the big team now that I have working for me, I think it's time to consider me for a VP role. And the response was, no, we don't think you're ready yet. And that was like a kick in the gut for me, because I felt like, well, if I'm not ready after accomplishing this much, and this is so unusual, then what do I have to do in order to achieve this goal? Like, are we talking about 10 years of this kind of achievement before you make me a VP? And by this time, I'd already been in the industry for 10 years, and I had paid my dues, and I had a long track record to justify my capabilities and my salary and so forth. So anyways, they gave me sort of a small bonus for all of this, and told me, to bide my time. So, my company was basically born in that moment. And for a lot of people, that's the case. They get some terrible disappointment. And guess what? They decide, that's it. I've had enough. I'm going to start my own business. Not that you don't have disappointments in your own business. You do, plenty, let me tell you. But again, somehow when the disappointments are of your own making and you have some element of control over them, and you have the ability to make change, you perceive, I think, them very, very differently. A third reason that people think about starting their own business is actually that they've achieved a lot in their career. Many of the baby boomers and 40 somethings, they've basically achieved a great deal, perhaps in their career, and they're wondering, well, what comes next for them? And some people don't want to climb the ladder, climb another rung on the ladder. So what they do is they decide to start a business, and it could be consulting because it's leveraging off of their existing skills and knowledge. Or they could decide to do something utterly different. They might be a corporate banker and decide, hey, I want to run the corner coffee shop and, chat with people all day about life and love, and, serve them coffee. But usually it's also someone who's in a position where maybe they have put aside money, and they want to have that opportunity to start their own business. The other thing I find is many people are really, who start their own businesses or think about starting their own businesses, are really obsessed with finding investment or money making opportunities. Like I think back to myself as a young woman in university, and I remember in university having lunch with other friends and dreaming and fantasizing about starting my own business, even in university. And of course, during my first few years of working, same thing. I was always on the hunt to try to think about, some way to start my own business. And excuse me, I find a lot of entrepreneurs have this mindset. They absolutely have money on the brain. They want to find a way to generate income, to generate money. There's also personality characteristics of entrepreneurs. So for many, they're driven achievers, and they're self-improvement fanatics. So you find a lot of those crazy people who run marathons and triathlons and do grand fondos and whatever. They also tend to be the ones that are generally entrepreneurs as well, because they love to push themselves and push themselves to the limit. And that kind of mindset goes with being an entrepreneur. So you got to kind of think a little bit about, okay, do I have the right characteristics or character or personality to be an entrepreneur? Generally speaking, that type of those types of traits are the ones that we see in entrepreneurs. The last element is really, do you come from a family of entrepreneurs? And in my case, yeah, I came from a long line of entrepreneurs. In fact, I came from a really unique family where the women in the family from the 1940s onwards were not only successful, but were really the main breadwinners of their family. So imagine my maternal grandmother and her sisters lived in Cairo, Egypt, and pretty patriarchal society. And they had a whole fashion design atelier business where they designed for the wealthiest of Egyptian citizenry, and they went to all of the fashion shows, and would look at what's big on the catwalk with Dior and Chanel and whatever, and essentially copy a lot of the designs and add their little twist to it, and build a whole wardrobe for a wealthy Egyptian woman or a European woman who happened to be living in Cairo at the time. So at any rate, my grandmother and her two sisters, they're very, very successful, and yeah, they were main breadwinners for their families. And yeah, most of my family had that background on my mom's side of the family, even my dad's side of the family. My grandfather, my dad's side of the family, with his brother, had a whole manufacturing business for cigarettes, and they also were distributors for alcohol in Egypt and Lebanon as well. So sometimes you come from that background and it becomes part of you, but then it kind of skips a generation because, for example, my parents came to Canada in the 1960s. And it was really interesting because, they never thought of starting their own businesses. My dad was university educated, and my mom was kind of a very intrepid person. She landed in banking, and my dad landed in private sector, and then subsequently in the government as an economist. And their mindset was not to start their own business. So it was kind of weird, actually, that I did, because I think I was the first of of the second generation, or really the first generation Canadians that started a business. And I think out of my family, I have just one other, well, no, I have one first cousin who started their own business. And of course, I have a second cousin who started a business here, and his boys also started businesses and were extremely successful, like multi-million dollar businesses. So yeah, there's definitely all of these elements. So just to review, when you look at starting a business, you have to look at all these different elements. You have to look at where you're at in your career. You have to look at your financial situation. You have to look at your personality. You have to look at your family background. And all of these different elements come together to determine whether or not you have the right soil to start planting your business. So in my second podcast, or sorry, in my second vodcast, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover off what it takes to be an entrepreneur in terms of what is the entrepreneurial personality profile. And I'm probably going to talk about a book I just read recently called Grit by Angela Duckworth, which is really fascinating because it gets into the whole analysis of why somebody becomes successful. And the premise is it's not necessarily because of intelligence. It's usually because of grit or perseverance, or that, hard work ethic, that never give up ethic. And that's why when I mentioned earlier the personality type of being, self-improvement, pushing yourself to the limit is kind of commensurate with being an entrepreneur. So if you're kind of a very chill person, you don't want to achieve necessarily a lot, probably starting a business is not the right forum for the great things you have to bring to the world. But if you have particular personality traits, you're probably a slam dunk for running your own business. So I think next show we'll talk in at length about what it takes to be an entrepreneur from a personality perspective. And yeah, thank you for joining me today. I look forward to chatting with all of you and discussing some of the capabilities of entrepreneurs from a personality standpoint. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all next time around. Be well, guys. Take care. We'll talk soon.